Over the last 15 years, Bangladesh's public university campuses have been turned into center of organized political torture. So the message was clear from the government that torture is a pathway to power. So become a torturer and you will get rewarded, kind of that.
We'll begin with Dr. Sabir Ahmed today. So at first, I would like to give a brief introduction of our panelist. So I will begin with Dr. Sabir Ahmed. Dr. Sabir Ahmed is a postdoctoral research associate in the Department of Economics at the University of Virginia. He holds a PhD in applied economics from Michigan State University with a deep commitment to social justice both within and beyond academia. He is also serving as president of Sochar, which is a vernacular Bangla term, torture, and which is an organization of Torture Watchdog Bangladesh, a US-based human rights advocacy and research organization. Dr. Ahmad has been at the forefront of the fight against campus torture in Bangladesh. Over the past 2 years, Sochar has documented cases of abuse, interviewing hundreds of survivors to bring their harrowing experience to light. These testimonies have played a critical role in exposing the brutality, amplifying victim voices, and pushing for institutional accountability and justice. Under his leadership, Sochar has become a powerful platform for amplifying victim voices, demanding institutional accountability, and advocating for systematic reforms. Through policy advocacy, awareness campaign, and trauma-informed support efforts, Dr. Ahmad continues to work towards the goal to ensure that survivors are never forgotten and that campus torture is brought to an end once and for all. Thank you, Sabir Ahmed, for joining with us.
Hello, everyone. Good morning. And those who are in Bangladesh, it's like good afternoon. Thank you, Junaid, for the generous introduction, and thanks for inviting me. I'm really honored to be here today, especially alongside this distinguished panelist. What I want to do today is just not to share any statistics or data or research. I want to take you through a dark and painful reality that very few people talk about. It's about how a generation of students in Bangladesh has suffered in silence. Over the last 15 years, Bangladesh's public university campuses have been turned into center of organized political torture. We all know that. And dormitories that meant to be home for students became torture cells. And speaking of, even if a very simple Facebook post could lead to being dragged away, like to be beaten, maimed, or even killed. And it was not a random violence. It was designed, maintained, and rewarded as a part of broader system of political control. An authoritarian regime dependent on campus terror to maintain their illegal power or grip on power. Let me start with a bit of context. Bangladeshi people know about that context, but for the other audience, public university education in Bangladesh is almost free. So are the dormitories, and most of the students come from rural areas or lower middle class income families. For many, this is the only path to higher education. Dorms offer usually basic rooms and subsidized food, but this system is very fragile. The dormitories are overcrowded, and it's like there are not enough seats for everyone. And the worst part is the access to rooms is not managed by the university officials, so they are controlled by the leaders from the ruling party's student wing. And sometimes more than 20 students share a room that is built for only 4 or 6 people, and it's during the first year of freshman year. And here is here is where politics enters, bringing fear with it. Vulnerable students, these students come from far from a rural area, far from home, with no family in the city, no political connections, or even after no money, and they become the easy target. So now let's talk about the nature of violence that took hold over the first 15 years. The violence in Bangladeshi campuses is not new. Like political clashes among student groups have occurred for decades in Bangladesh. So we are very familiar to it. But what we have witnessed since the rise of Sheikh Hasina's regime is totally different. It's not just political rivalry or any random violence, random street fights. It is targeted, cold-blooded torture that we experienced. And they target students. They have like any dissenting boys criticizing prime minister, criticizing prime minister's father or their party or any policy that government take, and even any dealings they do with other countries like India. And what they do, what they used to do is like they target particular students for any reason, or if they think these particular students is from any opposition parties or supports any other parties, any other student parties. The targeted students are summoned to specific rooms, like any guest rooms or sometimes indoor sports rooms or any particular rooms like Big Brother's rooms. Those are actually the torture cells, torture chambers in practice. So once they are inside, they are surrounded by a gang of so-called student leaders who beat them for hours. Torturers were not in rage, but they are very cool-headed, calm, deliberate, and they're like celebrating those torture. And in the last 15 years, torture becomes a kind of event like a sadistic spree. These are not like acts of political discipline. They are like acts of psychopathic enjoyment. And campus dormitories kind of like turn into a concentration camp. And Dr. Nabila Idris might talk about the Ainagod, the secret detention camp. And if I want to compare with the Ainagod, the secret detention camp, I would say after the torture in the secret detention camp, Ainagor, the campus torture became the second highest form of state-led suppression. One case in 2019, the Abrar Fahad case in particular, like it shattered the nation. We first came out to know, like we came to know what happened during that night. Abrar Fahad was a second-year student at Buet, and he posted a Facebook post criticizing governments dealing with India. And that same night, he was called to a room and tortured to death by the ruling party's student wing. Buet is the Bangladesh University of Engineering and Technology, and this is one of the premier university in the country. And Abrar Fahad was religious. He used to pray, and he used to write whatever comes to his mind in Facebook. And for that, he died. Like he suffered the torture for the whole night. And Abrar Fahad was not alone. He was just one of the victims that we couldn't ignore. At Sochar, the organization I represent, we have documented dozens of equally disturbing cases. And one student near in Borishal University, nearly beaten to death, was offered urine to drink when he begged for water. And we know some cases, like in other cases, the victims are given soft drinks, even dinner between the beatings, not as an act of mercy, but to refresh the victims before continuing torture. In one of the most harrowing cases, a female student in Kustia Islamic University, she was stripped, tortured, and videotaped overnight. The video was later released on social media because she refused to stay silent. The weapon they used were very simple: rods, cricket stumps, GI pipes, but the cruelty was boundless. Bones are broken, victims' bones are broken, nails were pulled out, they used to search phones. Students were interrogated for like their likes, comments, posts, and sometimes just wearing a religious cap or having beard or praying in the masjid, but very for very silly reason. And first year students are forced to attend political rallies, and sometimes they are punished for not clapping loudly enough or not chanting slogan or not showing enough respect to those student leaders. So this was not just violence. This is not this was not politics. It was like a psychological warfare as designed to dominate, dehumanize, and control. It's about total control. And after all this, there was no justice, not from the university authorities, not from the any law enforcement agencies, and in fact, in many cases, it was the victims who were arrested after they are being tortured and framed in false cases to silence them. And what about the perpetrators, torturers? They are rewarded with like senior party positions. Those who are like the severe torturer, psychopath torturer, they are getting like higher positions in their party, in like better government jobs, in even academic positions. They are like getting university teaching positions, and even scholarship for study abroad. So the message was clear from the government that torture is a pathway to power. So become a torturer and you will get rewarded, kind of that. The pain was not just emotional. It's like many victims were left physically disabled, maimed, scared with permanent injuries, and they lost education, friends, jobs, opportunity, anything you can say. And many face jail time, like, and they face legal fees, financial ruin. Some of these ones some of these ones may fade over time. You can say many victims say, okay, I forgive them. But the trauma lingers. They carry a trauma. They become like, and also after the incidents, they became socially isolated. No one dares to keep friendship with them out of fear because they could be the next target. Many victims are dropped out from their educations, and we have interviewed many survivors who still cannot return to campus out of fear. They cannot come to the university campus again. And one former student we interviewed, that student tortured over a decade ago in a Dhaka University dorm. He left university and he didn't complete his masters. He abandoned his masters and left to the home district, and he never returned to Dhaka out of fear that they will come for him again. They will torture him again if he came to Dhaka. And many victim survivors deals with chronic anxiety, flashbacks, insomnia, and some cannot even trust people anymore. It's like they see like, okay, this person might torture me. But this trauma is not just individual. What I want to focus here, it's not just for victims. It's a collective trauma that an entire generation carries. Roommates who heard the screams overnight, friends who stayed silent to survive, parents who sat at home every night dreading a phone call. Many students wrote to us like saying that they were not the ones tortured, they are not the victims, but their friends were. Or someone just across the hallway, they saw they were victims, they were being tortured for the whole night. They heard the screams. They knew someone they care about would be beaten throughout this night, and yet they did nothing because doing something could mean like becoming the next target. And this silence chosen to survive just for survive, this silence haunts them, and it leaves behind a guilt that never fully fades. So this is a trauma that seeps into like every dorm room, every classroom, every family. And I would say this is a collective trauma, and it was intentional, not just to punish some particular individual that I don't like them, or they are not from my party, or they are criticizing my party. Not, it's not like that. It was to e- extinguish any spark of resistance in a whole generation. So why did this happen? Why would a government allow such brutality to their own people? Because it served a purpose. They are not in power through democratic process, so they are always in a fear that people may resist against them. And in Bangladesh, student movements have always played a powerful role in political changes, like any against any autocratic regime. So the ruling really regime knew that if campus roses, the streets would rise too. So they turn universities into zones of fear, like making campuses concentration camps patrolled by their loyalists or their party supporters. And campus structure was not a side effect of authoritarianism, it was a pillar of it. This is something I wanted to highlight. However, in July, something changed. As we all know, students rose up against an unjust quota system that benefited pro-government candidates. But students are not just protesting against the quota, they are like reclaiming their dignity, their faith, and future. The regime responded with bullets, with batons, and brutal crackdown. Nearly 2,000 people were murdered. Most of them were students, and over 30,000 were injured, and still people didn't bow. This The interesting thing here is protesters first drove out the ছাত্রলীগ, the student wing of the authoritarian regime, from several campuses, starting from Dhaka University. And this is the game-changing moment. When fear lifted, the street filled. Many people came to the street, and finally, the autocrat fled. Because when you free the campus for Bangladesh, you free the country. And this is where Sochar comes in. Sochar is a Bangla term, means vocal, and
Right.
we are born. Yeah, I'm finishing in 2 minutes.
Okay.
Sorry for taking more. So we are born out of silence, created to break it. Since the late 2013, we have interviewed survivors, we have documented torture cases, not just numbers. But the severity of the abuse, the cruelty, the tools used, the trauma left behind. We published reports in Bangla and English. We exposed perpetrators. And we supported the campus movements that fueled the Buet anti-student politics movements in early 2024 and the July Revolution. We provide legal and trauma management support to survivors. Unfortunately, no other national or international human rights organization in Bangladesh focuses on campus torture. Maybe, perhaps there are like many other human rights violation to cover, or because this is an unique phenomena globally. No other country has experienced this kind of student campus torture in their universities or educational institution. But we believe we must act on it, and we become the pioneer to call for justice for campus torture victim. I would like to conclude with a call for justice. Universities should be homes, not prisons. No student should have to choose between education and survival. The regime may have fallen, but the owns remain. We must continue to document, to demand justice, and to ensure that this never happens again. We owe to Abrar Fahad, murder Abrar Fahad, to every student whose screams are ignored, to every parents who feared the worst. And at Sochar, we will keep fighting, because silence is not an option for us. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sabir Ahmad. It was wonderful talk, and of course, that like a lot of stories we got to learn from here.